Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name is Ross, and I was always told I had a voice for radio, so today we're going to be looking at Blaziken GX. Now, I don't want to be misleading anyone here. We don't have Blaziken GX having been officially revealed. What we do have is a whole bunch of information which tells us a lot about the Blaziken GX we're going to see. Now, I did a Sizzle GX video recently doing predictions about that. Sizzle GX, I was really sure which Sizzle EX was going to get a functional reprint. Blaziken, less sure. So to be perfectly clear, Celestial Storm is our August set that was revealed by chaoscards.co.uk. And it has been officially confirmed we're getting a Blaziken GX. Now, Champion Road is a little mini set in Japan, and on the front of Champion Road you can see a very prominently displayed Blaziken. Just like you can see a Salamence and an Articuno, and it has been confirmed that Salamence and Articuno are coming as GXs in Champion Road. Ergo, since we know Champion Road is going to be in Celestial Storm, and since we know Blaziken GX is coming in Celestial Storm, it is almost certainly, and by which I mean I'm like 99% sure, it's coming from Champion Road, and if it's coming in Champion Road, it means it is basically just a reprint of an earlier EX. Now, to take a quick look at the two that have been revealed over in Japan, we have got a Salamence, and the old Salamence had free retreat to all of your non-EX's non-baby Pokemon. The new Salamence gives free retreat to all of your non-EX, non-GX's. The old Salamence had an attack that did 40 to one of your Pokemon. The new Salamence has a GX attack that does 120 to one of your Pokemon. Old Salamence did 120 while discarding 2 energy. New Salamence does 200 while discarding 2 energy. That, ladies and gentlemen, is what we call power creep. Old Articuno had an ability that put it in the active and moved a bunch of water energy over. New Articuno has the same ability. Old Articuno had an attack which discarded energy from the defending Pokemon and from yourself. New Articuno has a GX attack that does just that. Although New Articuno has had to add a third attack because, you know, it only had 2 attacks and we wanted 3 in the new one, gosh darn it. One thing I do need to mention, which I've not actually mentioned in a video previously, although we did have a functional reprint of this Articuno, there was a second Articuno EX, which had an attack for free energy which did 50, whereas the new Articuno has an attack that does 130 for free energy. You could see this as a boosted version of Rocket's Articuno EX's main attack. Just putting that out there, ladies and gentlemen. Just putting it out there. So we've got 2 Blaziken EXs which have been previously released. There was a Fire type one in EX Team Magma versus Team Aqua, and there was a Fighting type in EX Crystal Guardians, although weirdly it did have an attack which used fire energy as well. And further research reveals this is in fact the only Fighting type Blaziken we've ever had released, which is kind of weird to think about, that Blaziken has been a Pokemon this long, and that the only Fighting type card we've ever had, given that it is of course part Fighting, was actually this EX that came out so long ago. Little bit weird. Now, we don't know which Blaziken is essentially getting a reprint in Champion Road. With Sizzle, it was quite easy. There's no way they're reprinting Rocket Sizzle. Firstly, because Articuno was Rocket's Articuno and that didn't get reprinted. Secondly, it was a Darkness type. And thirdly, it's Rocket Sizzle and we're getting Sizzle EX. So for Sizzle, I could look here quite confidently and say, right, we are getting essentially a reprint of this particular Sizzle. For Blaziken, it's much more difficult. But given that we have a Fighting type and a Fire type, and the art's just better on the Fire type, I mean, seriously, how weirdly thin is the Fighting type? I think it's fairly confident that we're going to be getting a reprint of the Fire type Blaziken in Champion Road. Now, the good news is they both have 150 HP. Blaziken is going to be right there up with the big boys in terms of HP, up there with my boy Incineroar with 250. 150 was a lot back in the day. There's no reason why it shouldn't be 250 when it comes out as a GX here. And being a fire Pokemon, assuming it is a fire Pokemon, means that it will get a bunch of tricks like Kiawe to accelerate energy and Flint to search your deck for 4 basic fire and put them in your hand, or even Blaine to draw 2 cards for every fire Pokemon you have in play, just so long as it's the only card in your hand. Plus, you'll be hitting weakness against those grass Pokemon like Golisopod and those fire-weak metal Pokemon like Solgaleo. It's starting to look pretty gosh darn good. However, being a fighting type would also be kind of cool. It would mean you'd be able to use strong energy for a tiny period of time before the rotation. It would mean that you'd be hitting weakness against stuff like Zoroark, and you'd be able to use cards like Diancie Prism Star to add 20 damage to all of your attacks. So, if you're going to have to pick between 2 types, you know what? Fire and fighting are 2 pretty good types to be choosing between. But it's really the attacks here, and I feel fairly confident in saying we are not getting an ability on this Blaziken, because Articuno is copying an ability from an old Articuno EX. Salamence is copying an ability from an old Salamence EX. There is no old Blaziken EX with an ability, so I am kind of 99% certain that we are not getting a Blaziken with an ability here. So now that that's out the way, what are the attacks going to look like? Well, if we assume it's going to be the fire type, we've got a fire and a colourless, 30 damage, flip a coin, if heads it does 20 more, if tails the defending Pokemon is burned. The thing is, back then, burn only did 20 damage when they flipped a tails. Nowadays, you're burned and you take 20 damage and then you flip a coin. So under the new rules, I think it's better to do the burn than the automatic 20 damage. Unless, of course, your opponent is playing something like a Comfey. Given, of course, that Tails is always the worst of the 2 options, maybe this would be burn on a heads. I don't think so, to be perfectly honest, but it's a nice thing to think about. The second attack, 2 fire, 2 colourless energy, discard 2 fire energy, choose an opponent's Pokemon, you do 100 to that Pokemon. And then think back to some of the other Pokemon that I've shown you from these old EX series. Salamence does 120 as its big attack, and Articuno that does 50 for free energy. Sniping for 100 was huge back in the day. Here's the thing though, I don't think we're going to get a GX attack that snipes for big damage, because in Champion Road we're getting Salamence, which has a GX attack, which snipes for big damage. I think it's more likely that this will see a little bit of a change, so that you just discard a bit of energy and do a lot of damage. And a stage 2 for 4 energy, that is a lot of investment. You expect to do quite a bit there. Remember though, that the Articuno is gaining a 3rd attack, and it's basically just a souped up version of an attack from a different Articuno EX. So let's have a look at the other Blaziken, although I think it's less likely that this one is going to be the reprint. For 2 energy, you do 30 damage, but you can grab a Pokemon from the bench into the active first, which is quite nice for finishing off bench Pokemon. And 4 energy, but it's a fighting fire double colourless, 100 damage, and kind of awkwardly, before doing damage, count the remaining HP of the defending Pokemon. If that Pokemon is knocked out by this attack, Blaziken EX does damage to itself equal to this attack's damage minus the remaining HP of the defending Pokemon, which essentially just says don't use this to finish off a Pokemon that's got 10 HP remaining, or you will pay for it. Weirdly awkward attack there. And maybe one of these 2 attacks comes back as the 3rd attack here. I just don't think we're getting a fighting type Blaziken GX, and we might, and if we do, it's basically going to be a reprint of this one. But this is the only fighting type Blaziken we've ever had, so for that reason I don't think it's terribly on the card. Having said that, we never quite know. Speculation is fun, and like I've said, we know we're getting Blaziken GX. We pretty much know it's coming in Champion Road, which means we pretty much know it's a reprint of one of these two Blaziken, so this isn't just some reckless speculation video. We can be very confident that it's going to look very much like this. But as with all of these, ladies and gentlemen, I want to hear your predictions. Which of these two Blaziken do you think is getting a reprint? What do you think these attacks might look like in their new 2018 form? Give me some predictions, tell me some hopes, go nuts, but be nice. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and so on, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio. We might be hosting Patreon tournaments soon. And do check out Wassy Plays, because we're close to 1,000 subs and I would like a vanity URL. But by far the most important thing, as always, is to look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.